So the further we go in midlife, it starts to become a lot more common with breakups now, especially in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. And within that space at the moment, there are so many people sitting in their cars doing videos and talking about it, which is great because it's a support network, right? So that's really good. But what is the best way of having support, I often think, is hearing two people, especially both sides of the fence, from Mars and from Venus, if you like, having conversations about shared experiences because they're real life conversations and you get to know what the other sex may be thinking as well. So today, I'm joined by Katie Christian, who's a hormone practitioner, and she's just coming out of a marriage now. So I came across Katie on her feed and I wanted to see more about her and speak to her. And so she joins me today. So welcome, Katie. Really glad to have you here.
No, it's amazing to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Elliott. I'm excited for our conversation.
I'm looking forward. I'm a little bit nervous, but I am looking forward to it. So, Katie, tell us about you were married for 13 years, and then that broke down. So, was that something that you saw coming, or was that a surprise to you?
So, just to correct things, we were together for 13 years and we would have been married 12 years in May this year. But anyway, we are still technically married, but we're not divorced yet, but we're going through a divorce. Okay. So I think, like any marriage, it has its ups and downs, it has its difficulties. Did I see it coming? I think the last couple of years were very difficult because he went into a world that was very unknown to both of us. And that world, you know, came with a lot of expectations and a lot of pressure. And yeah, I mean, he went into a world where he was exposed into the limelight, so in the public eye. And people handle that kind of external validation, best they can, right? I don't know what one would do with all of that, you know, external validation of other people and judgment and attention. It kind of almost just happened overnight. And obviously that's going to put pressure on a relationship for sure. Was it the only thing? No, there's a lot of things that happened along the way. And I just think it got to a point where I was fighting for something. I was fighting for us and I just wasn't getting it back, you know? And in the end, yeah, at the end, he just left. So I think that was a shock in the fact of how easy it was for him to leave. I was hoping that there would be more of a fight, but unfortunately there wasn't. So yes, it was a shock that he left. But like any marriage, I think there are always like ups and downs and problems. And do you know what I mean? I think the hardest thing that we struggle with is how to communicate with each other, for most relationships. Right? So yeah, and what is it now? We're in June now. It's been 9 months since we split. We're going through a divorce. And does it get any easier? If I'm honest with you, I just think you process different things at different times. Do you know what I mean? And it gets difficult in different ways, if that makes sense. Not that it gets any easier. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not on the floor crying my eyes out anymore. But yeah, it's just a process, and it's not a process that should be rushed.
Do you think in that situation, because we spoke about this the other day, both of us, and when I had a breakup, which was nowhere near the length of time, but it was the only time that I think I felt that I've ever actually really been hurt in a relationship. And it took me a long, long time to get over that. But when I boil it down, that was just a relationship. It was quite easy to get out of a relationship because you might be living in the same house, but just one of you leaves and that's it. It's done. But if you're married, does that then take on a sort of a different challenge because you're then dealing with so much more, I would imagine, because it's not just you've got to deal with the relationship breaking down personally, but then there's so much other stuff with that as well, isn't there? Because you're married.
Yeah.
So did
Yeah. I
did
mean,
that did that have you dealt with those separately, or did you have to sort of like go, right, I've got to deal with the divorce first because I've got all this stuff that comes with the marriage, and then I'll deal with me.
yeah. Yeah. I think there was so much to deal with. And my nervous system was just on high alert all the time, because I had so much going on. Not only like we had a family home together, my daughter lived with us, and we had 2 dogs, and there's all of that, the logistical side of things. The house goes up for sale. Where am I going to live? I had to rehome the dogs. I had to think about my daughter. There's so many things you're thinking about as a woman. It's a lot. And your grieving almost has to get put to one side. And in the situation that I was in, I was left to sort everything out, everything. And I remember, and if you look at my Instagram, I pretty much share, you
No, you
know,
do, yeah.
yeah, I share what I go through in life and the real raw truth of it, because a lot of what we go through, we don't get an audience, we don't get clapped at. We don't get, oh my God, I can't believe you went through that. We do it a lot in silence behind closed doors, because we've been made to feel ashamed of having feelings, of being human, And I'm like, no, it's totally okay to express how you feel and show people what you go through, because it's almost like a mirror. You know what? Yeah, I went through that too. And how did you handle it? And then what helped you, And it's just sharing an experience. But I think I do it in a way that lands with a lot of people, not just majority women, but men as well, because men obviously go through this as well. But I remember just packing up this entire house of memories. And then the rooms just become emptier and emptier. And you're just sat there in this house that had so much noise, the happy memories, sad memories, It's just an overwhelming mixture of so many feelings. And then when everybody's gone, you are the one that's left in the house. And I remember sitting on the stairs crying my eyes out because the house had sold. I had to rehome my dogs. I'd lost my husband and my daughter moved out. And yeah, I was just a mess, because I can just remember thinking, who needs me now? Who am I now? What role do I play now? Where do I go now? What's my life going to look like now? And it's fucking scary. It's
Yeah.
so scary, terrifying, because something else I'll be completely honest with you about, the way that I was raised, that was that the man provided, and the woman, she sacrificed. She was the bridge. She did it all at home. I looked after businesses, all of it, while he was able to thrive in his career. And the hardest thing is when you build this dream together, right? And all of that hard work, all of that sacrifice, and you don't get chosen in it. That's hard. That's hard to deal with, because the other person doesn't see what you did for them, That's very difficult to accept and swallow.
Yeah.
And
Do
then
you, do
obviously
you,
you're left. Oh,
do you think that, and because that's a very common sort of setup for a relationship, isn't it? Where the woman will be, behind the scenes doing
yeah,
a lot of stuff, where the man will be out there. And I think that's changing slightly, but I think that's one of the biggest things that I've found listening to followers and people that listen to the show, is that it's that role that just isn't valued, because there's no value placed upon that role, because there's no like, well, you're doing this role and that's worth 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year or 50, whatever it may be. So at the
yeah,
end of it, it's like, well, I where am I in this? Where
yeah,
my role's not being appreciated at all, but you've just gone off and carried on.
yeah. I think for our generation, we stayed to survive. And a part of me stayed because I was terrified of how I was going to afford to live financially. That was a big
Yeah,
thing for me. It's an actual fear for many women. And also, not only that, Elliot, I have built this life for the last 13 years. So that is my life. I have earned that.
yeah,
And then to get that taken away from me, everything I've given, and having to start again, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But you have to ask yourself, it's about being happy. It's about living your life. Like, I think a lot of us walk around like we're not gonna die, and we are.
yeah,
So we
100%.
stuck. We don't do the things that scare us, we don't face reality. We don't want to. We want to distract ourselves. We want to numb it, because facing the truth at the end of the day means you have to make a decision, and that decision is painful. And as humans don't want to be in painful situations, what do? We distract. And whatever it is that method is that you do to distract yourself. But I do think a lot of us, a lot of time, are just walking around on autopilot, not expecting that one day, that will turn off.
So a question, do you think you would have felt, or it would have felt any different if the decision was yours to leave rather than not? Do you think that made a big difference?
There were times that I did want to leave. I was very unhappy in the relationship, but I didn't have the balls to do it, I think, because I was so terrified. I was so terrified of how I was going to survive, and being alone. I think being alone can be scary. I think it was, this is like, a lot of people say this, I think it's easier to stay in, and it is easier to stay, but it's also harder because you just put yourself through this pain, every day. And you think to yourself, well, what is the easiest thing to do? Is it better to leave or is it better to stay? And I think that's going on in your head all the time. And I think I stayed, and I tried to fight to work on the relationship, because we had been together for such a long time. And I loved him so much. He was a big part of my life. So yeah, I stayed and fought for the relationship, but you can't be the only one that keeps fighting it. It's gonna come to an end eventually.
Yeah, it's also exhausting.
It's so exhausting, mentally exhausting. You only got to look at my Instagram and I look like a different woman today.
Yeah, but I mean, the one thing that I noticed, and the start of the show, I said that as well, that there are so many people in this space at the moment that are talking about sort of being single, starting new relationships, coming out of relationships, and which is great. But a lot of it now has become saturated with almost like an AI-led script that everyone is reading off, and there doesn't seem to be. I don't find when I listen to a lot of it, there's a lot of words that are being said, and they're the right words, but they don't amount to anything, because it's not backed necessarily by any experience. It's just sort of people saying, you need your peace, and all the right things to say, but it's just a script, and it's not about sharing your experience as you are here with us today. It's more about, right, this is content. This is content. I need views. And you can argue that I'm not doing anything different. But I think when you have conversations like we are now, and you speak to people that are actually been through that, I think that really helps people. But are you finding that's what I found with your Instagram, was that it's very genuine?
Yes.
Your journey.
That's always been very important to me, that I just say it as it is, whatever comes out, whatever comes up. There is a lot of people out there that are preaching, like you say, the right words, but haven't really lived, haven't really experienced anything. And we're taking advice from people like that. And I think it's hard. It's so saturated, like you say, it's so conflicting and overwhelming. Social media is anyway. But I think you can always tell if someone's being genuine or not because of their passion and the energy behind the person speaking. If it's authentic, or if if they're absolutely full of shit. And also, obviously, a lot of people sound the same as well. The words that they use, it's just the same stuff. And I think eventually, I do think that people are going to want more and more authentic people, because we're going to lose that. So I think people that are authentic, people that are coming together and having real conversations, that's not scripted. This is not scripted. Really, if you think about it. We had a conversation 5 minutes before this. We said, we'll touch on this, we'll touch on that, we'll touch on this. That's it.
That was some of our best stuff.
Yeah, it's a real conversation with two people that have been through stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about it. That's what it needs to be more of. There needs to be more of this real conversation with real people, in my opinion.
So the last thing with sort of the heartbreak, before we move on to the divorce part, what did you find the hardest part about the heartbreak? Because it is, I always remember this, with the experience that I had, it was like a real pain. And I'd never experienced that before. It was a real sort of like you could feel the pain in your chest, and it was devastating. But for me, it was, and it took me quite a long while to realise it wasn't what you got out of the other person. It was that feeling of loving something that much. That's what I felt the biggest loss was for me. What
Yeah.
have you? How about you? What have you felt the biggest sort of challenge has been in heartbreak?
I think the hardest thing for me is this and how much that spirals. I love really hard. So when my marriage ended, it was so painful. Like, I'm not joking you, like actual pain in my heart. Sounds
Yeah,
mental, but
yeah, no,
I
I
would
understand it.
I would cry and I could just feel my heart hurting so much. And the pain, I think when you love somebody so much, the pain's just unbearable. Unbearable. Your head spirals, you start filling gaps. Okay. You do the silence, you start filling it with shit. And that shit is not good shit. You start creating these scenarios of they're so much happier. Oh, he's going to have this amazing life. He's going to get this, he's going to get that. While you're there holding all of this emotional weight that I pretty much did the entire relationship. So you're like, not only am I carrying all of that, I've got to carry this pain of being rejected, this pain of not being enough, this pain of I don't have a life. I don't know who I am anymore. What am I going to do? And then this pain of you telling yourself they are having this amazing, beautiful life. You know, that's what you do. You spiral, you fill the gaps because the silence is so excruciating. You got to fill it. You got to fill it with the shit that makes you feel even worse. And it's because you're protecting yourself from the worst case scenario. But the hardest thing for me is the spiraling, the creating of stories, that weren't true. Just made the heartache even worse because I'd convinced myself that he was living this amazing life while I was just left suffering. And they say that a man detaches in a relationship before they leave. And that's why sometimes it feels quite easy it looks like the man just left and that was it. But it's because they already detached.
I think that's the yeah, I think that's the but no, I think that's the case with people. I don't think it's just men. I just think that's people from my
Yeah,
experience, because like
yeah,
the experience that I had as well was the same as yours, where to me it came out of the blue. And when I've looked back, and this has been, this was a good sort of 15 years ago now, but it it was I discovered that it would probably happen a long time before I saw it. But then you do that thing in the post of the relationship where you're going through all these memories and all these messages because you're trying to pinpoint, well, when did it change? When was there a shift in this? Like, it can't have been then, because in this message she said she still loved me. So that can't have been it, because why would you say you love someone if you were leaving them? So, and then you're like scrolling through all these WhatsApps and paper
yeah.
everywhere. Bit
I know.
bizarre, really. When you look back now, you go,
Yeah,
I'd completely lost it by that time. So it
yeah,
is. It's trying to sort of find out where it went wrong. But I think to the other person, like you said, they probably left ages ago. You just didn't see it.
yeah. Well, we do see it. We do see it, but we choose to ignore it because we believe in potential. We believe in what if. We believe in an idea of us or him or her, right? And we roll with it because that's the easiest thing to believe rather than face the truth. What I was saying earlier, facing the truth means you've got to make a decision, and that decision is painful, and that's not something we want to sit with. We want to believe that I'm okay because it's the easiest thing to do, right? And I think you're absolutely right. Spend so much time trying to find answers and closure as to why they left, where did it break down? And me being the type of person that I am, I like working stuff out. I like understanding patterns. I like
Yeah.
watching your behavior. So you can imagine, I was like, right, okay, where did it break down? Why did he say that? Why did they do that? And I'm like, right, okay, trying to understand in my head, like you say, where did it go wrong? You know? and you waste so much time and energy
God,
because
yeah.
you're it's a multitude of answers. You can come up with so many reasons as to why and what, all of it. And it's just best to just not go down that route. But it's so hard.
And you can think like you're never going to find the other thing. You're never finding an answer, and the answer doesn't matter because you may see the end result of like, and in my case, like a month, 2 months later, they're with someone else and they're completely happy again, and then you think that was the reason. When did that start? Let me go back over my notes. When did this all start? She was like they were away then. That could have been like so. But
Yes.
again,
Yes.
none of that really matters. All that matters is where you are at that time and what's your next step forward.
I think when they do get into a relationship quite soon after, it kind of slots things into place. Do you know what I mean? You're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, that makes sense now. Right. But a lot of people that move on very quickly is because they can't be by themselves. You know, again, it's like another distraction. Not always the case, like, depending on, I can't speak for everybody's relationship, but obviously sometimes people move on and they are genuinely a lot happier. Some people are not meant to be together.
yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, a lot of the time, if you move on really quickly, haven't processed what you've been through, or if you've come out of a long-term relationship, they are a distraction for
And
sure.
yeah, and I also think what you end up doing is staying in the same behaviour as you was with the other person, because you haven't got to know. Like it's like, right, this was my life. I'll just move that one out. I'll bring this one in, and I'll carry on doing that stuff again. But eventually, you're going to come up with the same. I would imagine the same problems again.
Yeah. I think that was one thing that was really important to me when my relationship ended, is that I used the time to be by myself, as hard as that is. To sit in the silence and go through things without wanting to distract yourself is extremely difficult. It's one of the hardest things for us humans to do, not to distract ourselves and just sit with ourselves. And so it was very important that I didn't jump into a relationship or, anything like that. That was really important to me. So that's what I've been trying to do, is just process and move through what I'm going through.
So going on to the next bit, Katie, about divorce, because I personally I've never been married, so I've got no experience of this at all. But from speaking to people, especially women, it's something that's almost turned people off of marriage completely, and the idea of marriage is just the whole divorce part. So, what was your
Yeah.
experience of the whole divorce procedure, as it were?
You know what I hate? I hate that you build something together and in the end it has to be separated. And in the end, it's this is mine, this is yours, and what's fair and what's not fair. And then because what you did doesn't have a monetary value on it, it then gets classed as his, well, it's not. I helped build life too, so it's mine just as much as it is yours. I think in certain relationships, it can be very like, it's mine and nothing's yours. You know what I mean? I think some people really in a divorce get dealt with a really shit hand. You know what I mean? It's just, it can just get toxic in the end, and it's just really sad. That's what I hate about divorce. It's when everything gets separated and it's like, this is mine, this is yours, this is fair, that's not fair. Then you have to go through the solicitors, and then you spend so much money with the solicitor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Through work and but these back and forth, and yeah, I can understand why people don't wouldn't want to get married again, because just of the shit that comes at the end of it if it doesn't work out.
Has it changed your view on marriage?
I don't think, you know what, a lot of people say it's just a piece of paper, right? It's just a piece of paper. But when I got married, it was a commitment to each other, a commitment to vows in sickness and in health, right? That's really important to me, that you love this person so much that I am going to commit to, being the best wife and taking care of you. And I think that's still in there because of the way I was brought up. But I think the generation now and how they're brought up, they're going to look at things a lot differently.
Yeah.
Would I get married again? I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. Has it put me off marriage? It's not put me off marriage. If I'm honest with you, Elliot, I think what I did is I gave up my life for a man, and I wouldn't do that again. That would be
So,
the difference.
so you do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave up my life for a man, gave up my dreams, everything to build this dream we had together. And in the end, when it doesn't work out, you're no longer part of that dream. It's see you later. So I would never do that again. It's about not giving up on yourself, following your dreams. But if you do meet somebody, it's about adding to each other's life and supporting each other. It's not about one giving up something than the other. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really important. And to not rely on somebody financially either. Okay. And that's the truth of it. Do not rely on a man financially. Do not rely on a woman financially. I think it's very important for you to build that for yourself, for sure.
I think that can be one of the biggest fears as well for a lot of people is because you need the financial side of things to sort of house, food, car, whatever it may be, to do things. And without that, it's and I think that's been the way for a long, long time. It's very restrictive when you haven't got that.
Exactly. And do you know what the scariest thing is now is like, how does even a single person afford to live these days? Like the kids now are staying at home longer now with their parents because they can't afford to buy the house. Like you need to be in a relationship to be able to afford just to get by. So you can understand why people stay, because they're making it so difficult now for you to be able to live on your own and afford that and have a nice life. It's difficult.
So in terms of like the divorce, because this was the other point that I wanted to ask you, was in terms of a support network. Like I found that, again, speaking to lots of women, that's one of the biggest things is like, because your lives are entwined. So a lot of your friends
Yeah.
are their friends, and you don't want to be seen to be moaning about someone they know, because that puts them in a difficult position. And then you might, like your friends might have over the years know each other. So what was for you your support network, or did you just feel like you were alone in this?
I wasn't alone. I have an incredible family. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my daughter, my best friend. So I had an amazing circle of people around me. And even I'd like to do retreats, meet a lot of women on retreats, and even like women that I've already known, have been very supportive. And social media, Instagram. I've had incredible support on Instagram from people I don't even know. Incredible amount of support. And I'm just so grateful and feel so lucky. At the same time, you're right, you do build friendships when you're in a relationship, especially like one you've been for a long time. I think because I just watch, I'm an observer. So it's very interesting how certain people that you've known for a long time will pick a side and have not got your best interests at heart at all whatsoever. So I do think that when you go through something like that, it becomes very apparent who's there for you and who isn't. And I think that what you need to remember is, stick to the people that are supporting you, not the people that are, are shit steering or planting seeds or are toxic, telling you stuff, going back and forth, telling you stuff as well. Stuff that you don't want to know about. So I think you realize who's there for you and who isn't when you go through something like that, for sure.
So after the divorce, obviously coming out of that and still dealing with that, you're faced with being single later in your life. What does that look like for you? And what differences have you noticed from when you might have been there the previous time that you were single? What's been the biggest sort of like, wow, didn't see it being like this?
Yeah, I think that, well, obviously I haven't been single for a very long time.
No.
So coming to a 13-year relationship, I'm just a bit like, right, okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, at first, you feel rejected, right? You feel rejected, and you do look for attention. You post certain things to get kind of validation, to make you feel like you're being chosen. And I just think it's just something as humans do. It's just something we automatically do. And I think what I realize is a lot of the attention that I get is very empty and surface level. It's not quality attention. You know that saying where they say there's plenty fish in the sea?
Yeah.
There's loads of fish in the sea, but they're not quality fish. Do you know what I mean? You can get a lot of attention, but it's very rare that one comes through and actually, you have a conversation with. I mean, for me, I'm quite a deep person, so I like deep conversations. And a lot of the time, it's a very surface level, sort of just very quick hit, attention seeking, low quality sort of world that we seem to be in these days. So yeah, I'm like, how do you meet people? I don't know. Like, is it on social media? Do I have to do the dating apps? And I've heard so many scary stories about the dating apps. And now people are afraid to come up to people in public in case you say something wrong
Yeah,
or
say the
someone
wrong
takes.
thing. Yeah.
It's like crazy. I think, yeah, it's mad, really. I think what's important though is that I'm just in a good place mentally, because I think it's very easy, like, to give access to somebody that hasn't earned it, because you want that connection, if that makes sense. So I think it's very important that, especially for me, that you don't attach feelings and meanings to something that doesn't really mean anything yet, or they haven't really earned it yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're very quick. I think there's a danger afterwards. And I always remember doing it with someone that I met very soon after who was lovely. And I went really hard into it because it was the first time I think I'd met someone that I'd had
Yeah.
any feelings for. And I just jumped on it. And it was like full on within the first like sort of 3 or 4 weeks. And then she was like, well, this is good. And then after it had been sort of 2 or 3 months in, I then thought, I'm rushing into this. I just need to step back. But obviously that's a change of behavior. And that's the one thing
Yeah.
that you can tell with people is suddenly a change of behavior. So rather than sending loads of text messages that I was doing all the time, because it was like this, right, it's here, I'm going to grab it before it goes again. I
Yeah.
sort of withdrew a little bit without meaning to, but I just wanted to slow down. That had a massive effect on her, understandably. I do
Yeah.
regret sort of my behavior, but it was just a
Yeah.
natural thing that you do because you think, right, I found something that was
Yeah.
like, I never thought I was going to find this again. So I'm all over it. And then when you started to pull back, it is a change in behavior. And
Yeah.
she was like, well, what's going on? Have you met someone else? I was like, no, I've not met someone else. She's like, but we don't talk till 2 o'clock in the morning anymore. And it's like, but that's not sustainable. We can't do that every night.
And you know what, Elliot? I think that's really refreshing to hear that from a man, because that's exactly what happens. Like, I've experienced it myself. I do think guys come in like 100 miles an hour. They're very intense with the text. Like, it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I did do a reel on it. Like, the issue
So
is
that
the
I
woman.
saw that, yeah.
Yeah. The woman then will have an expectation of you messaging her like that because you've set the tone. So when you pull, she's going to notice. We're going to notice. Okay. We're women. We're going to notice. So when you pull back, we will then, when I was talking about earlier about gap filling, we feel spiral in our heads. We'll be like, have they got somebody new? Do they not like me anymore? What's changed? And you see what we're trying to do? We're trying to work out what's going on, but we don't know. And most of the time, they're afraid to communicate. Just be honest. Like, I mean, for me personally, I'd just say, why did you pull back? Like, I'm very direct. You know what I mean? I'm very
Yeah,
like straight to the point. But for a lot of us, we're too afraid to say that, because we're scared that the connection will end. It will just die. You know what I mean? We're scared of it. We still want
100%.
that. Yeah. So, but the problem is you're just hurting yourself even more. If you come in with the intensity, we're going to expect it, but it's not real. It's not real. And this is a thing that women need to realize as well. If a guy is coming in, or if a woman's coming in full on, that is not sustainable. It's not real. It's like a drug, right? You're on a high right now from the feeling. So what do you want? You need to get that hit. You know the term chasing the dragons. You just get that hit, and it'll just naturally fizzle out because it's not sustainable. But if you came in with that kind of logical mind of, okay, this is making me feel nice, let's just take it one step at a time. Not kind of, I think what we do as well, we romanticize it, we project things onto it. We think this could be, or this could be that. And yeah, that's what we do. We attach so much to it before we even know who they are.
Yeah,
Before we prove
well,
ourselves.
you've already you've made up the person that you think they are because it's the person that
Yeah.
you want, and you're going, right, they're this. But honestly, Katie, I can see it's not just women, because I can't speak for all men, but I did exactly the same. But what I got very good at, and probably to a point of paranoia maybe, was that noticing changes, like noticing patterns. So I did a lot of dating because I was single for a long, long time. So I did a lot of dating, and I got very, very good at like recognizing, and it was stupid things of like they. So and WhatsApp's the worst thing for this, because you can see they've received a text, so and they reply, and then you get to the stage where they receive a text, and then it's like an hour, and as soon as that happened, I'd be like, well, there's a change, and yes, it can be one thing, but when it's like, then you go, I can see what's coming now, and I really got really good at it, but to the point of where I'll just back out straight away and just go, well, that's done, because you can see it
Yeah.
coming. But when you're new
Yeah.
to it, you don't, and you do go down those rabbit holes in the end. And
Yeah.
I've done a couple of posts about this before, where I got to the stage of where I'd always have 3-month relationships, because I found that was like a time that not where people make decisions about people, because everyone's on really good behavior for 3 months, and you don't see them that much. And after 3 months, you start to see them a little bit more, and you get used to the person, and they start to see things in you where they go, oh, maybe I don't like that, and vice versa, because it's always a two-way street. But
Yeah.
I got to the stage where when a couple of girls are like, we need to have a chat, I just went, no, we don't. I don't need to hear your reasons anymore. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, your reasons are to help you feel better about making me feel bad. Don't. If it's not for you, it was quite brutal, like you said. I got to be quite direct. But I just thought, I don't need to hear your excuses about you need to work on you or whatever it may be, because you've already gone. So,
Yeah.
I don't. What does it matter?
Yeah. 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 I think it just depends on the individual. I think me personally, like, I think when anything ever starts, I just watch action. If I'm honest with you, Elliot, I'm just more about, okay, we can say the right things, but what are you doing? That's what I watch. And if their words don't match their actions, because I think a lot of the time we can waste a lot of time on hope because we're holding on to what somebody's saying rather than looking and watching what they're doing. You know what I mean? So for people that say, okay, let's make a plan, let's meet up, and then it never happens, but all of a sudden, I said this earlier to my friend, all of a sudden you just WhatsApp pen pals. That's all it is. It's just back and forth action. There's no like dates. There's no getting to know anybody anymore. I think when you meet people as well, people want to know, this is what I've found. People want to know your Instagram straight away. What's your Instagram? Because that's a window for people to come into a part of you and have a look at the shop window, right? And judge you on what you post or whatever, or get a feel or an idea, or maybe just be a little bit closer to you. But I think it's really important to know that Instagram is a shop window. It's not me. It's not, it's part of me, but it's not all of me. Do you know what I mean? But I think that's the thing as well. But I think when it comes to like dating, I think ghosting is probably one of the worst things. I think building a connection with somebody and then just disappearing. Do you know what I mean? I think that's just awful. I think it's just leaving somebody like that when a connection's been made. I mean, I've not experienced ghosting personally because I've not even been doing this long enough to experience that or build a connection that quickly, if that makes sense. Like, I think
Yeah.
I'm very much like, feel there's a shift, I will say it, I will call it out. But obviously I hear a lot of horror stories about people, texting, or I don't know, even having a relationship and then they just disappear, or they just ghost them, which must be absolutely awful.
I've had conversations with a few girls actually on the podcast about this, and their opinion seemed to be that, and I think this is people that do dating apps a lot. Once you've been in it a lot, that you realise that you don't necessarily owe people that courtesy of telling them, because you're just on their date. So I think it was different if you've met people. That's what they were
Yeah.
saying. But if you've just had a few conversations on a dating app, they don't, in their view, they don't need to give you an explanation. Personally, I think it's a morals thing. I think your morality would tell you whether you owe someone something, even if it's, listen, it's been lovely speaking to you, but I'm not going to take this any further, or not. And yes, you don't know that person, and you could say, I don't owe them anything at all, but that's like holding a door open for someone and someone not saying thank you. You know, they're just basic things.
Yeah, I agree. But I think also it depends on the level of connection that's been built, I think. Do you know what I mean? And also, like, depends on what you've attached to it. I mean, there's always one that's feeling things a lot more, and it's like you say, you can be very intense with somebody, and then you then shit yourself. You're like, oh no, I need to pull back, and then we pick up on that. I think honesty is always the best way. Just be open and honest. It just seems to be so terrifying for people to do. But I think on the dating apps, like, I don't really know much about them, only a little bit, but I think I don't know if you text a lot on dating apps or whether you exchange social media or you exchange your WhatsApp number, I'm not sure. But I think if you've built a connection with somebody and they just ghost you, I think, like you say, just have the decent thing to just be honest and say, look, this isn't for me, or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
So your post about someone coming in really hard, was that from an experience that you had after everything, or was that just a general observation of relationships?
Oh no, I've had that experience myself afterwards. Yeah, where you've connected with somebody, it's been very full on, and then they pull back. Yeah, it just seems to be quite common. Come in hot, very intense. So they set the pace from day dot. And then obviously it's not sustainable. You can't keep up with that pace. And then there's an expectation. And then you're putting expectations on the other person. You don't even fucking know them.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like, what are you doing? And obviously I'm thinking, why am I attaching this to somebody I don't even know? What the hell's going on with me? Shit, I need to work on myself more. But it's mad. But that's what I've noticed the pattern is, like, they come in all guns blazing, hitting the dopamine, hitting the ego, romanticizing it, fantasizing it, whatever it is that we do, because it feels good. And then obviously this is not real life.
So has that been sort of post your sort of divorce and during your marriage after that? Is that an experience that you've had?
Afterwards.
So that must be, are you aware that in that stage as well, that you could be where you are now, also extremely vulnerable to, like I said, so grabbing driftwood and going, right, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah, I think, obviously, like, when you come out of a relationship, you're very vulnerable. Okay. I was very vulnerable. So if somebody's going to show me attention, someone hasn't made me feel like that in a long time. That's good. Okay. You're like, this feels good. I felt so invisible for so long, and somebody is appreciating what this is. So it's like, it feels good. Why do you think I'm like, yeah, let's keep this going? Yeah, I'm loving this. Like, just feeds the ego, right? So if you're in a vulnerable state and you've got somebody there feeding the ego, I'm like, I'm just sucking this attention up. This feels great. But then because you're vulnerable, when you notice a shift or a pull or a change, you then start with the spiraling. You then start attaching certain things to it, and you hand your power over to this person that you don't even know, and you give access so easily because you want to keep that connection alive, because it feels good, because if you don't have that connection, you feel rejected again. It hits the very wound that you had in the beginning. It just keeps, and that's what it was like just right after, because I was so vulnerable. But obviously, me being me, I'm starting, you learn from your pattern. You learn, okay, this is what it's doing. What am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Because it does start with you, that you're fucking allowing it.
One of the things that I remember in that, actually, when you're talking about that I found as well, and I don't know if this is common to you or other people, is that after sort of, like I say, and it wasn't a long time ago, but after that breakup, I'd meet someone that I liked and thought, this is why that broke up. I'm meant to be here. This is where I'm meant to. This is why that happened. That happened because of this. And then you'd completely forget what went on before because now you're in a place where you think you should be. And then what I found was when that didn't work out, I didn't think about that. I just went right back to, it's like snakes and ladders. I just went right back to the beginning and went on that even harder, like what happened before. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, God, like this. And then I was never moving forward. And it took a long time to not go back to that original space again.
It does take time because it's not easy. It's a feeling, right? It's an addictive feeling. It's like a drug. You can't
Yeah.
just, hey, I've learned my lesson. That's it now. I've learned from that. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that. I'm sorry, but they're hard lessons, aren't they?
Yeah. I really
Lessons
are. Yeah.
are hard. So I do think we have to go through a little bit of shit, and it's going to keep happening until we learn the lesson from it. And when you learn the lesson from it and you change the pattern, that's when things change. And I think it's just about capturing it in the moment. It's being aware of what you're doing, but because you're emotionally attached to a feeling, you're not thinking straight. So to be able to kind of step out of it and go, oh, actually, I'm doing that thing again. Yeah. And I see what's
Yeah.
happening here. Okay, differently here. And that's what I did. I was like, no, this is not happening.
You,
This is not happening to me again.
you do get sunset moments eventually, and they could be years after. And mine was that I saw this person, and it was probably about 5, 6 years ago, randomly just bumped into them. And it was a bit like, and they're with the same person that they met after, and she got 2 kids, really happy together and everything else. And I was in a really good place as well, just because I was. And it was really nice just to see them and not have a gut wrenching feeling that, that you can get when shortly afterwards, which I'm sure you might still be in that stage where you'll see them and then just like everything falls out again. And it was like one of
Yeah.
those moments that you always hope for, that you can just walk away going, that was okay. Like I'm like, they're really happy. I'm good where
Yeah.
I am. And you do get those sunset moments sometimes that come along where you go, well, that's kind of the end of that. That's enough now. That's done.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So hopefully you'll have yours one day. So taking it back around, your day job, if you like, is a hormone practitioner. Now, there seems to be a lot of overlap in that as well, in terms of when all these relationships are breaking down with people, they are at a stage, especially women, obviously, that they're in a stage where they start to go through sort of their menopause, premenopause, postmenopause. So does that have a massive effect on how you handle it emotionally as well? And is that tied in with what you do with your job?
Yeah. I think I started to get into hormone health like when I was late 20s. That is just through what I went through. And I realized there's such a huge gap where there's just not really much education on women's health. So I just started studying the female body, female biology, and then realized most of what we've been taught is based on a male model. So male biology, and the reason for that is because men give easy data, simple data. So when we're doing things like drug testing and diets and all of these, health kicks that we do, it's tested on men because your data is very simple. You're very linear. And it's hard to do it on a woman because we're so cyclical, which we're up and down because our hormones fluctuate because we have cycles every 28 to 35 days. So the data really is simple to do on a man. So a lot of what we've been taught and the advice that we're given is based on a male body. So a lot of correct because the studies haven't been there. Obviously, things are changing now. There's more studies coming out. There's more testing on females, which is great, but it's still slow. It's still the same textbook sort of answers. If there's something wrong with your hormones, here's a pill. Here's HRT, essence, whatever. That seems to be the go-to because it's the easiest thing to do, right? We've only got 10 minutes for our doctor's appointment, and obviously they need to get through this as quickly as possible. You don't, if there's something wrong with you hormonally, we don't get to see a specialist. It's just a generic doctor, you know. So a lot of the time we are dismissed and we are made to feel like, well, you're just a woman, you're just gonna have to crack on, you're getting older, see you later. That's a lot of the a lot of the
Yeah.
kind of advice that we are given. But when you get older, it all depends on your lifestyle. It's a big, big thing. So how you experience these hormonal changes. So if you're somebody that really suffers with your hormones, the biggest thing that I would say is look at your lifestyle, because the worse your lifestyle, the worse your symptoms, And a lot of what we've been taught as a woman is to eat less, move more. So as women, all we've done is starve ourselves. We've always been on diets. We've been taught to put everybody else first, We train a lot. We don't eat enough. We don't know how to eat. What is a balanced meal? What are macros? All of these different things. There's a lot that we just haven't been taught. And a lot of what's been forced down our throats really is to be skinny and to run on empty. So if you think about doing that from, I don't know, the age of 20, which you can get away with, right? You can get away with most things when you're young. But when you get older, your body just can't handle it anymore. Something needs to change, and we're still trying to do the same thing in our 30s, in our 40s, in our 50s. We're still eating the same way. We're still training the same way. We're still listening to the same shitty people. We've still got, a toxic environment. We've still got a high stress job. We're still taking on everything. We don't know how to put ourselves first. We're not looking after ourselves properly. We're taking 150 supplements, hoping that it's going to change, how we're
Yeah.
feeling. All of these, so much pressure. When really your body's saying, I can't do this anymore. You need to start eating properly. You need to start sleeping. You need to start taking better care of yourself. You need to start looking at your stress levels. All of these things, basically. So yeah, that's a big thing.
Do you think that obviously you follow this as well, and physically you're in really good shape as well, and mentally as well? Do you think that where you was really helped you deal with what you've been through in a positive way, as opposed to if you weren't that way and you were struggling with your hormones, it would have been even harder?
Yeah, absolutely. 1000%. Like if we go back to being in a marriage, he was a bodybuilder, right? So it was all about image. It was all about the way you looked. So I put that pressure on myself to look like a bikini competitor. So that meant that I would starve myself, right? I'd starve myself and train a lot. And that impacted my hormones massively. I actually didn't have a period for a whole year. So it just goes to show that your lifestyle is really, really important, and it has a massive impact on how your hormones, work or don't work. And say for somebody that takes contraceptive pill, if you've been taking that all your life, like a contraceptive pill is synthetic hormones, it shuts down your natural hormones. Do you know what I mean? So if you have conception as well as you've got this lifestyle that doesn't serve you very well, that's a lot. It's a lot of stress for your body to handle, a hell of a lot. So if you're thinking to yourself, why can't I lose weight? Why can't I sleep? Why do I get so angry? Why do I want to punch everything? That's why. So I think when I was in my marriage, like a lot of the pressure was on the way that I looked, for sure. So I suffered with binge eating disorder. I don't know if you know what that is, but basically I competed because I thought that's what I had to do. Got myself to a really lean look, went on stage, but nobody prepares you for what that does to you mentally afterwards. Because you starve yourself, you go through a prep for like 20 weeks. You are constantly critiquing yourself. I need to be leaner. I need to be leaner. I need to be leaner. So when you've competed, you've been on stage, you get the post show, all you want to do is eat because you've restricted yourself so much of essential nutrients that women need to have regular cycles, to, be able to have a healthy lifestyle, deal with stress, sleep, all of these different things. It's not healthy. Bodybuilding is not healthy. Okay. Somebody who's lean and muscly doesn't mean that they're healthy. That's a very important message here. Okay. Because they can look healthy, but sleep shit digestion, terrible stress levels, have thyroid problems. Do you know what I mean? All of these different things. And binge eating disorder is when you just literally consume this huge amount of food and you can't stop because it doesn't satisfy this feeling that you have inside. So you're that feeling of not being good enough. So you reach for something. And for me, it was food. Like I would eat a shit ton of food in a very small window and then feel guilty after it. So yeah, the pressure that we put on ourselves as women, it's crazy. It's so unhealthy and it has a massive impact on our whole health for sure. So it's crazy really that my marriage ended and I started to look better.
Just because of that relief of so where are you on where are you now with that in terms of, like, because obviously you're still in great shape, so
Yeah.
have you just found a balance with it now, or
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously when I was in my marriage, that's when I did start to look at hormone health a lot. And I changed a lot of things in the last few years, really understood what the body needed. And then my body slowly, okay, this doesn't happen overnight. You can't treat your body a certain type of way for 20 years and expect you to just feel, look and feel amazing in a few weeks. This shit takes time.
yeah,
Your body needs to be safe again, and that takes time. But a lot of us just don't have patience. We want results now, and that's the problem. If you just be patient with yourself, it does come, and stay consistent. That's really important. So that's what I did. And I just started changing, started feeling better. My stress levels. I used to suffer with PMDD. Don't know if you know what that is, premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's literally like PMS on steroids times 1,000. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's debilitating. And so I suffered with that massively. And yeah, I just literally started to make these changes, understood how the body worked, and yeah, just changed massively my physique, my mental health, everything, how I dealt with it. So yeah, I do feel like everything prepares you, it's almost like when I look back, like I never thought that what I was doing would actually really help me today. So there you go. So it just goes to show that how important this stuff is. Um, yeah, and I literally, feel probably the best and look the best I have done in a long time. So yeah.
Katie, definitely. Listen, I don't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to thank you for today and due to your honesty. It's been great chatting to you, and I'll put everything on our feeds for people to point them towards.
Sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to mention that for anybody that is suffering with their hormones and they don't know where to start because it is very overwhelming out there. 2 years ago, I did build a app called the Hormone Healer. So this is female led only. It's based on female biology, and it just helps you with nutrition, because nutrition is such a big part, and how to train, especially as we get older. And there's like loads of information in there. So the link's in my bio. So if you share my information, you can always go and check it out as well.
Put everything in there and point everything towards you. But Katie, honestly, thank you so much for your honesty today and talking us through your journey. And I hope that
No,
will help people as well. Guys, thank you for
no,
listening. Thank you again for following. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow. And we'll catch up with you soon. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Katie, stay there. Oh, thank you so much.